4 astronauts, 3 spacecraft, 2 weeks in orbit. Artemis III is NASA's most complicated mission ever attempted. NASA just released new details about Artemis III, the mission that will send 4 astronauts to the Moon aboard the Orion spacecraft. But what makes this mission truly unprecedented is the choreography in Earth orbit before anyone ever leaves for the lunar surface. 4 astronauts, 3 separate spacecraft, and about 2 weeks of complex orbital operations, making it, in the words of Artemis program manager Jeremy Parsons, one of the most complex and ambitious missions NASA has ever undertaken. Artemis III will be the first crewed NASA mission to rendezvous and dock with 2 separately designed crew-capable spacecraft. The only other time in human spaceflight history that astronauts visited 2 different crew-capable stations in one mission was Soyuz T-15 in 1986, when cosmonaut Leonid Kizim went from Salyut 7 to Mir. Gemini 10, in 1966, came close with John Young and Michael Collins, but they only rendezvoused, never docked with both. Shuttle missions STS-72 and STS-51 each visited separate satellites, but none required the multi-vehicle coordination that Artemis III demands. The mission begins with NASA Space Launch System rocket lifting off from Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39B, carrying the Orion spacecraft and its 4-person crew into low Earth orbit. Once in orbit, Orion will perform its first rendezvous with Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark II lunar lander. Orion will spend about 2 days docked to the Blue Moon lander. This is not a final landing version of the lander. Artemis III serves as a test run for both commercial lunar landers to mature their designs based on actual in-flight data, before crewed lunar landing on Artemis IV. Once docked, 2 of the 4 astronauts will transfer into the Blue Moon lander to test its environmental control systems, avionics, and the interoperability between the 2 spacecraft in flight. The lander also carries a test article version of the EVA spacesuit, designed to mirror what astronauts will actually wear during future excursions across the lunar surface, providing engineers crucial data about how the suit interacts within the lander's crew cabin. The Blue Moon Mark II is a graduated design built from the smaller Mk-1 cargo lander, which was itself scheduled for a demonstration mission this year. After Orion and Blue Moon undock, Starship launches, but not before. SpaceX is currently constructing 2 Starship towers on Florida's Space Coast, one at Launch Complex 39A and another at SLC 37, though it is not yet clear which pad will support Artemis III. SpaceX introduced version 3 Starship on its Flight 12 launch in May, and intends to fly the same design on Artemis III with a docking adapter for connecting with Orion. Unlike the version that will fly on Artemis IV, this Starship has no crew cabin for the astronauts. Instead, Orion and Starship will test communications and maneuvering systems between both vehicles. Starship's version 3 upgrade includes hardware that will be needed for an actual moon landing mission, including docking ports to perform propellant transfers in space. Starship requires refueling from tanker ships in orbit to fly beyond low Earth orbit, and NASA estimates at least 15 Starship refueling launches will be needed just for Artemis IV. Transferring and storing those cryogenic fuels in space is another critical capability that both Starship and Blue Moon need to demonstrate before they can perform crewed lunar landings. Orion and the Artemis III crew will stay docked with Starship for about a day before detaching to begin preparations for their return to Earth. Similar to the return of Artemis II in April, the astronauts will target a parachute-assisted splashdown aboard Orion in the Pacific Ocean off the United States West Coast. Successful operations with both landers on Artemis III would pave the way for NASA lunar landing plans on Artemis IV, currently scheduled for 2028, where Starship is the vehicle selected to carry out the first return of astronauts to the lunar surface in more than half a century. The complexity goes beyond just the spacecraft. Orion, Blue Moon, and Starship are all designed to launch on different rockets from different launch pads at Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This requires cross-agency and commercial collaboration for range availability, resource constraints like nitrogen gas availability across the various ranges, and the alignment of several overlapping hierarchies of infrastructure. NASA Human Landing System Program Manager Steve Creech noted that both companies put forward aggressive objectives to complement upcoming uncrewed demonstration missions at the Moon, so they can gain understanding and confidence prior to a crewed landing. The Reddit thread sparked some fascinating historical comparisons. One commenter pointed out that the Saturn V F1 engine, which remains the largest ever flown, had flow instability problems, and they solved it back then without CFD. They just had spare engines and some C4 charges. Another noted that the Saturn V was designed entirely by hand, which blew their mind as a CAD enthusiast. Of course, as one commenter dryly observed, back in the Apollo era, they didn't have to deal with Microsoft Outlook either. Others shared nostalgia about slide rules and joked that Saturn V cost a nickel back when nickels had bumblebees on them. Artemis III is not the moon landing itself, it is the test run that makes the moon landing possible. Both Blue Origin and SpaceX need this mission to mature their landers with real in-flight data before NASA trusts them with crewed lunar landings on Artemis IV. The double docking choreography, the propellant transfer testing, the spacesuit validation, every element is a stepping stone. If everything goes according to plan, Artemis IV in 2028 will deliver humans back to the lunar surface for the first time in over 50 years. But first, Artemis III has to prove that 3 spacecraft and 4 astronauts can pull off the most complex dance in history. Artemis III is going to be a spectacle. 4 astronauts, 3 spacecraft, 2 weeks of orbital choreography, and the biggest test run in the history of the Artemis program. If you want to stay updated on NASA journey back to the moon, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Let us know in the comments, do you think Artemis III will hit its milestones on schedule, or is another delay in the cards? Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next mission. Artemis III is going to be a spectacle. 4 astronauts, 3 spacecraft, 2 weeks of orbital choreography, and the biggest test run in the history of the Artemis program. If you want to stay updated on NASA journey back to the moon, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Let us know in the comments, do you think Artemis III will hit its milestones on schedule, or is another delay in the cards? Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next mission.